Okay, it's Friday, February 10th. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. And today you can see we end up with a 2 down bar that probed the low of yesterday but didn't really follow through much and closing a little bit green here to the upside. And that's, if you watch my the recap video yesterday, this is very much expected when you had the broadening day, the 3-day to the downside. First of all, that's not an actionable signal to continue lower. It just means it broadened on a shorter time frame. Then the question is it going to really continue lower and start broadening on a higher time frame, or is that it, possibly, given the overall context that's in play? And the reason you felt like that might be it and it might not really follow through much lower is because the weekly bar was just an inside week all week and there was no actionable targets there. And you can see we kind of came down a little bit for most of the week, but we're closing with like a neutral looking bar. And if you really go back, I was doing this just to show you something. Like if you go back in the uptrends that were in place, you see occasional little red bars up here that this one probed lower, then went higher. This one's a little probe. They just kind of hold in there and then the uptrend continues. Once you get a really strong red bar and a 2 down, you might get a little deeper pullback. So at the moment, if you really just look at this price action starting from, the bottom and has its heading up here and making this second leg up. This is just at the moment, just a neutral bar. I'm not saying you might not have a 2 down, strong down bar, next week. Anything's possible, but at the moment, it's not quite there yet. And that's the reason, at least for today, you didn't necessarily expect the follow through. So what that meant was a little bit of confusion in terms of, the market itself, because you really, given, my methodology, I'm not really looking to go long until I get above the midpoint of a prior day. In this case, it would have been a 2 down failure that really would have had to show me strength above the pre-market highs, this blue line that was going to go to that midpoint to possibly have an outside day to back to the upside. You'd had one to the downside, maybe another one to the upside. So I was really only looking to go short if I was going to do anything, knowing that there might not be follow through. And what that led to on the SPY was a kind of an opening that didn't really give you the red bar to start in the pre-market range. We went up a little bit. We failed here at the pre-market highs. I then at the 2 down bar showed you how I bought some puts just to see if we'd head lower. And as I was heading down to take out the intraday lows, I kind of said, I shot another video showing this is a point to just scale out, or if you want to hold on to the lows of the day, you can try that, but don't be surprised if it pops up strong by the end of the day. And that's exactly what happened. So none of this is surprising. The only real opportunity on the SPY was to kind of get short in here and see if maybe you'd get followed through to the downside. It had a little bit of room to go to the pre-market low, the intraday lows and the pre-market lows if it was going to get there, and maybe, just take out some stops, but it didn't want to do that. So you end up with this green day tomorrow and today. And what that means for tomorrow is this is an actionable signal. We get the 3 down, 2 down, 2 up. So if we can start breaking above this high, that's a start of a buy signal to see if we start broadening out back to the top of that range. And on the inside bar, then we start the week, maybe starting up and seeing if we can break. We have to now get out of this inside bar one way or the other. If we were going to go to the downside, what I would have preferred today was an inside bar here that didn't really probe the low and take out some stops. So the inside bar then could have given you an actionable signal to then reach this low, and then that would have in turn triggered the weekly inside bar to the downside to maybe then start heading to that low in a whole chain reaction. But since we already took out the low of this bar, it now becomes more of an actionable signal to the upside should it develop. And with this mixed day today, with some stocks were going up and other stocks were actually going down, I could just look at the stocks I looked at just to show you the contrast. The SPY itself was tricky, but other stocks like PayPal, here are the 4 stocks pretty much I traded. I tried to buy that here. It reached its target. I scaled out. You can watch the video on it. And it was more or less a very small gain on this trade once it started down and didn't follow through. But you could see strong start above the pre-market high. So you tried that one. What else? Then I bought, then right after that, kind of with the market going down, I was selling NVIDIA. And that was a very good trade. You could see the short buying the puts here. It reached its 2 targets, and I highlighted those on the video. These were the daily targets, and it hit both of them. And then finally, throughout as the day went on, Walmart had a very good tightening action in here near its pre-market highs, gapping up. Bought that here, reached its target. And Occidental Petroleum, same kind of thing, went up nicely, a little pullback here. Secondary move of the day, bought it here. It reached pretty much its target to the upside. So, there were stocks going up, there were stocks in Videolite going down, and the SPY itself really just kind of chopped around a little bit as expected. So we'll see what happens next week. Again, looking at the monthly chart, let me look here. That's kind of still in a green mode. I kind of like that, even though, it doesn't look like a good month so far. It's not really coming down and trying to get to the halfway point of the prior month on this inside bar. And now time's going by and we have an actual signal to the upside. So maybe this was just a pause on the breakout, and then we eventually start up and get this bar turning green by the end of the month. Who knows? So we got to get out of this inside bar next week. We have an actionable signal to the upside. We'll kind of try that if it develops. The downside, it'll be tricky, but if we could do anything that probes it inside week to the downside, we'll look to kind of see if it gets to that target. If it can't get there, that'll be exciting to really get long if we try to go down and can't do that. But, it can go down, and who knows? You never know price action-wise. But today was certainly expected given the nature of, the big picture context, and then this type of day, and the fact that you just kind of probed the low of that bar but didn't really follow through much. So let's see what happens next week.